quorum for the full council meeting at 1.
Okay.
I think we just go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. All right, well, I'll call the meeting to order. It's 12 p.m. Michelle Lefebvre, Exemption Committee Chair.
Onona Thone, Exemption Committee member.
Ron Terry, member.
I guess it's me, Tom Eisen, ERP staff.
Okay, and I just found a note from January, sorry, that Maka'ala did say she was going to miss February.
Oh, okay.
The February meeting.
Thank you. Okay. All right. And we can proceed with the items on the agenda.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Ron's geared up, ready to go. First one, well, the only list we have to discuss today is the Department of Hawaiian Homelands list. It's not an agenda item, but since we had it on last month's agenda, CWRM has pulled their list back. So that's not pending anymore, but they have retracted it for review. Okay.
That's kind of just based on your folks' discussion. They want to just discuss more internally.
No,
Just said,
they're done.
go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, no, I mean, you were going to say they're done.
They're done.
They're not going to do it. I
Okay.
think it was Kaleo's idea, and Kaleo's not there anymore. And I think the staff looked at it and said no.
Okay.
They don't want us to consider it, and they don't want it to be considered moving forward. So retracting that list.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
Sure. Okay, now really we can move on to the HHL's list. So this was a pretty substantial edits, and I apologize. It accidentally made it onto the full council agenda, and I intended it just to be for exemptions, but I don't think it's a big deal. I think we could just let the full council know that it was just meant for internal discussion on exemption committee. But
That was probably my fault, Michelle. So sorry about that. I just pulled whatever just so that we have the opportunity to give an update. But yeah, we don't.
And if anybody did read it and have comments, we'll take it into account then. But I certainly didn't mean for it then. So I did eventually find that the whole list is divided into two. I didn't see that when we were exchanging some emails earlier, Ron, but there's the part 1 part of the list and then the part 2 part of the list. So they go through the various types of exemptions under part 1 and then everything under part 2. And many track changes in both the part 1s and part 2 in all the types of exemptions. So did anyone have any thoughts overall, or should we just go one by one through the red line?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we have to go through every red line thing, but everything that we have a comment
Right.
on.
Well, right. I mean, I just meant march through sort of, yeah, the red line changes, and then stopping at those that we had questions or felt we should discuss.
Yeah, I have some non-red line comments too, so.
Oh, okay. Well, let's start with non-red line comments.
Well, I mean, why don't we just go through it?
Okay.
You know, I mean, page by page, although unfortunately, we do not have page numbers on this, so.
Let's add that. That's usually one of our comments. So
Okay.
And there's a lot of pages, so this will be a little tough to navigate through, but maybe we should just do, okay, page 1, add page numbers. Page 2, does anybody have any comments?
Yep.
Sorry, going back to page 1, on the historical note, it talks about current list was reviewed on 2021, and then it says the 2015 list supersedes the previous list. So I don't know if that's just a little, so there was a 1982, a 2015, and a 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
The wording is clumsy, but I didn't think I thought I'd let them get away with that. Yeah, I looked at it and went, why do they say that? I mean,
right.
I just wasn't sure if the 2015 was a typo and meant to say 2021 or.
There's been 3 lists and now there'll be 4.
Okay, okay.
Right.
So we'll just leave that. Okay.
Yep. Okay. Anything else on the first page then?
No.
Okay. All right. Then the second page, the text that they've added to identify the two parts.
I don't have
I mean,
any comments.
yeah, they're just restating. I mean, what's
Yeah.
in the rules, so I don't have any comments either. All right, third page, that's the and carports. This was under a type 1.
No comments on my part.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so page 4, again, we're still under, all these are under the part 1, type 1. This is an addition of the exterior low blue spectrum security lighting and shielding. I mean, everything's got to comply with, you know, codes. So
Yeah, it's fine.
as long as it complies with code, then seems fine. And then they added the canoe holly also, which also seems fine to me. All right, then page 5, the numbering seems to go a little bit funny. It goes from 10 and then 1, so I'm thinking that should have been 11 after
Right.
10.
Yeah, we'll make a note to them just to reformat.
Yeah. And then everything, yeah, obviously in red. So this is all still part 1, type 1.
I have a comment on item 10 at the bottom.
Mhm.
It should be, you know, item 20,
20.
I guess.
Yeah.
Use of lands and waters by those exercising traditional and cultural practices, blah, blah, blah. I don't see that as operations and maintenance.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, maybe if they want to say it's operations for a person to go somewhere, but it just seems kind of funny, a funny place for that to be. I think it fits better in number 4 or I mean, I think it deserves a little discussion, explain, you know.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I guess lands and water bills.
Well-
Use of.
So I guess I can kind of see it under operations programming of existing structure equipment. Yeah.
Well, nobody else does this.
Yeah.
You know, the county parks and rec doesn't make people, you know, have an exempt activity if they go on the park
Mm-hmm.
and gather something. I just don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's okay. It's an interesting concept, but do we really consider use of land by individuals exercising their traditional and cultural rights a 343 activity? I don't.
Yeah, I wouldn't as well. So that's a good point. We can talk to
Yeah, I mean, if we're
Michelle
talking about
Yeah.
if we're talking about collection, you know, any kind of, you know, significant collection, I agree it would be more under type 4, if anything, if that's what we're
If
talking about.
anything.
But if anything,
But-
yeah.
You know, I don't even want to go there with saying that Hawaiians who go get some Maya Pilo on some land or need to think about 343, you know?
Right.
Mhm.
Well, even in a broader context, just somebody just taking a walk in the conservation district,
Right.
is that a use that triggers 343? I mean, yeah. you don't
No,
want
I don't
to
think
go
so.
there.
Right.
You know, you didn't treat it that way when you were there, right, Tom?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So,
It would be the act of establishing a hiking trail
right.
that
Right.
would potentially be the land use that we're looking at, right? Not the act of hiking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I I have to imagine they're thinking more of collection here, but okay, well, that's definitely one we can discuss with
Okay.
them. Sort of look for some clarification. Is that what they're talking about? Are they talking about collecting? Are they thinking about something else? And
Mhm.
is this really belong in here? And if it does it belong here?
And then, well, I don't know, if we can go on to the next page, whatever page that is. I'm already lost. Is that 4 or 5?
Yeah.
Yeah. 16, there's kind of a weird one.
Yeah, I flagged that one too. The HUD one. Mhm.
Yeah, it's like, well, geez, that doesn't seem, I mean, at the very least, what's a project? They're talking about an operation and maintenance project? Because this is an operation and maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they have to clarify that,
Mhm.
because otherwise projects that,
Well, we have a rule for when NEPA satisfies HEPA review, right? We have a specific, and we'd have to look to see whether the NEPA document meets 343 criterion. So I guess for me personally, and I think both of you are more, you folks definitely have more experience on how the NEPA exemptions and whether or not those would translate to qualify under our own exemptions, right? Because just taking it a step back, if we say something is, an exemption under NEPA, that doesn't automatically fit into one of our exemption types,
especially
right?
part 1,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I guess, there's not time right now to look this up. I do have the regs, but it would take me a few minutes. It'd take me 5 minutes. I just flagged this. I haven't done it yet, but I'd like to see what, part 5834 says, part 5835, and whether that qualifies as an operations and maintenance de minimis exemption or not.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so let's just maybe flag it and do some more research.
Yeah, and I can do that too, Ron. I've got those regs also handy. I mean, again, the language doesn't call out HUD. We know it's HUD because we've
I
done
do.
HUD NEPA, but it certainly
Yeah,
that wouldn't be clear to somebody, I think, looking at this who isn't familiar with HUD would know what kind of NEPA we're talking about. I think with this,
right.
at the very least, a reference to HUD. But then I think, yeah, we need to cross-reference. I also had it flagged and also just didn't have the
Okay.
time for the call to sort of see what those categories are, because like you said, Onana, I mean, there are certain things that are exempt under 343, and I'm
Right.
imagining there's probably a good amount of overlap with what HUD
Mhm.
thinks is, falls under, operation maintenance, that would be exempt, that would overlap with how 343 thinks about it, but
Mhm.
it just, yeah, I mean, I get that the HHL probably the main NEPA that they do is with HUD. Just seemed odd to me to tier to a specific agency's
Yeah, and
exemption.
I wonder if it's
the
almost helpful.
congruence of those sections with the de minimis, I think, I doubt that it's there.
Mhm.
And I think you would have to make much more specific language here to make this fit as item 26 in operations and maintenance, part 1,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know?
I think I would prefer to see what specific of the categories they're thinking of, when they
Yeah.
say these types of actions under this exemption type that they feel apply. Otherwise, yeah, it's a bit broad.
Right. And I actually think for our rules, maybe we shouldn't have to cross-reference
Right.
to NEPA regs. So yeah, I think spelling it out would be better. And maybe this discussion already kind of makes me feel like it should be a part 2, whatever it is,
Mhm.
if they're going to do it. And then just for the record, our citation is HAR 11-200.1-31. That's the rule for, applicability of NEPA documents to chapter 243.
Right.
Yeah, I just decided to just go part 58 CFR 34 and it came right up. Okay. So 34 actually fits pretty well. And it would be simple to say what it is. 35, um, may not quite be, let's see. Hmm. 35 is a little more problematic. So let's just have a discussion on this with them.
But before 16 even, the hazard abatement,
Mhm.
there's a couple of them, 12 and 15. Is that typically we have that under part 1, or is that
I think it fits okay.
okay?
Yeah, it's kind of maintenance,
For existing structures, that's why, right?
For
right?
existing. I see. Okay. Yep.
I think it's okay. They have a lot of stuff on
Mhm.
hazards. They do this all over the place, and it's kind of
Mhm.
weird. I don't really get the distinctions, and that's some of my questions. If you go down to type 2,
Yep. Type 2.
they've added a size limit on replacement and reconstruction, which is I guess their prerogative. I don't know why.
Mm.
Most other agencies don't limit themselves in that way,
Mhm.
but I just wonder why. And when you get to the language of part 2, it's kind of interesting because it subsumes this. It doesn't distinguish itself from this. It subsumes this type 2. So,
Mhm.
and then 1E does not seem like replacement and reconstruction.
Mhm.
It seems like
Installation.
new stuff. Although,
Ditto for L as well.
yes,
The addition of landscaping.
right, exactly. Both of those.
Well, I mean, this type does also cover replacement and reconstruction, so. Grabbing and listening.
Well, it says installation of systems rather than replacement and reconstruction of systems. If it changed to that, it'd be okay, but
Mhm. Right.
I don't know. It just triggers me to go, It's I mean, type 3, let's go look at the wording. Construction and location of single new small facilities and structures, the alteration and modification of the same. I think it fits better into type 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe L as well.
Actually, L seems to me to be type 4.
Yeah, the minor alterations.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, if they wanted to keep L, for example, here, it can be, replacement of existing lands. I mean, maybe it makes more sense that way, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. But there's the grading part, right? I mean, that's not a replacement of the existing if you're grading.
No. And honestly,
Landscaping and grubbing potential. Well,
landscaping is more type 1. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know. Yeah, that's when you maintain landscaping, you have to replace plants,
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think it kind of doesn't fit in there.
Right. So maybe landscaping under 1, but the clearing, grubbing, grading under type
Yeah, type 4.
3,
I think it is.
4.
4.
Yep. Yeah, there was for O on the next page, still type 2, didn't have a size limit. I thought, they called out the size limits with the homesteads. I don't know I guess if it's tied to that, but I guess it's replacement of
Mm-hmm.
pavement,
Well, if it's replacement, is that what they mean?
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at number 1, it says replace, it uses the words and then they go through the list, right? So if you go back to
Okay.
page 4, so I mean, even for E and L that we were talking about, I mean, even though they use the word installation, it's prefaced by replacement reconstruction.
Well,
But
you can't replace installation, I don't think. I mean, I think there's some
yeah.
issues with their wording.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mhm.
know, these should be structures, facilities, equipment, or utilities, examples of that. Most of them are,
Mm-hmm.
but installation of something isn't an example of that. Landscaping is not an example of that, unless you consider landscaping the verb, but that's clearly not how it's used here.
Right.
I mean, sorry, as a noun, and it's used as a verb here, clearing. So I think they just, M has really the same problem. I think they just need to put those in the right category.
Mhm. Sorry,
Um,
back to the grading and grubbing of areas less than 3 continuous acres. I mean, is that considered minor? I'm trying to think of what's the limit for like NPDES requirements.
it's 1.
It's 1 acre.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean,
Um,
does that give anybody pause on 3 acres? Another type 1
Or
exemption?
343. I mean, they'd still have to get their NDPS permit.
Yeah.
yeah, I think maybe the NPDS permit sort of alleviates any
Cover.
concern I would have about that.
Okay.
It does sort of seem to dance into a part 2, but if they think it's okay,
Mhm.
they've had, I mean, geez, DHHL, in the 1990s, they graded a bunch of land at Laiopua in Kona to help do they were actually looking for the survey pins. And
Mm.
it was so dense that they thought, well, it's kind of hard to walk around out here. Let's just bulldoze it to where we think the pins are. And in doing so, they damaged innumerable endangered species. Because they didn't even do a basics, even though they knew they were there. I mean, somebody knew they were there. They'd had studies that showed they were there. This wasn't just out of the blue. And in fact, U.S. Fish and Wildlife wouldn't sign off on any HUD funding for about 7-8 years
Mm.
Wow.
in Kona. And they came up with a settlement and said you have to develop an endangered species preserve and a management plan. And they kept pushing back on that, but in the end, they decided they really needed that HUD money, so they did it. And in fact, I did that, and it was a really fun, cool project for me to do.
Mhm.
But I just couldn't believe, what I'd seen before and the heavy burden we had to have to get over that. So when I see grading 3 acres, it does make me kind of go,
It's a big chunk of land, and it's continuous grading. It doesn't say over an area of 3 acres. It says of less than 3 continuous acres.
I wonder if that should be more contiguous, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Contiguous. Yeah.
I mean,
But-
should we put that one in like a part 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they could
just-
change this to a grading less than a half an acre or something like that. That's kind of,
Yeah. I guess I'm just wondering in what instance what projects do they have where they're maintaining landscaping that's over 3 acres, or if I wonder if these are for home studies, right? To come in and
Well-
do, I mean, I think, I don't know if their acreages are that big.
well, that's the thing. See, if they've already got a homestead,
Mhm.
they've done their studies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, so they're okay theoretically.
Mhm.
And they haven't subdivided somebody's lot that's got a bunch of endangered species and have done nothing about it.
Yeah.
I need to say though that Puukapu does have areas like that. I was up there doing biosurveys for ordnance clearing and detection, and we found endangered species on some lots that nobody had ever gone out and looked at. But in general, most of their lots from now on, you know, they're going to have done stuff.
Mhm.
Or
But-
if the landscaping stays, you know, as the part one, maybe we're comfortable with that, but then maybe the clearing, grading, grubbing is at the very least a part two.
Yeah,
And then, you know, if they were willing to sort of break this one apart.
I think they're going to need to, because just looking at it, looks like part 4. So, you know, if they don't mean that, if they mean, no, these are all areas that we already have, it's already been cleared and graded and grubbed.
Right.
We're just re-grubbing and clearing and grading it.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's already landscaped. We're re-landscaping it. If that's what they mean. But I think that kind of needs to be determined. You know, when I look at the next page and look at P and X and MM, I'm a little surprised that they're boxing themselves in like this, because we're talking about replacement or reconstruction of existing structures.
Yeah.
Why, if the sidewalk is more than a half an acre, I mean, and you're just replacing and reconstructing it, why do you worry about that? So that just makes me go, why?
Maybe they've gotten input, but it'd be nice to hear if they have.
Yeah, I want to talk to them and ask them about that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wonder if they thought about a lot of these, you know, all the way through. So I think having that discussion with them will
Yeah.
maybe place these in the proper places.
Yeah.
Okay, on the next page we get on to we're still under type 2, 3 and 4 replacement and interior alterations.
Yeah, and I think 3A, I kind of get where they're talking about. You know, they're worried about cultural resources maybe. So if there's a potential for cultural resources, then they want to do at least, you know, part 2. I assume. I got to make sure that it's actually, you know, over in part 2. It's such a big list, it's hard to cross check.
Mm-hmm.
And then security lights was the other one on that page. Then the next page, I and J. Only one that I wanted to chat about was J2, the rehab restoration at historic or archaeological sites. If it's an eligible historic site, then it's right. Then that's a trigger. If there's work, right?
No, it needs to actually be listed to be a trigger.
Right now, listed, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
the trigger is, of course, use of government land and funds here.
right.
So there's already a trigger, but why don't we just have them walk us through that?
Yeah. And archaeology is spelled incorrectly, but that's just a matter. It's AE after the H. But yeah,
Well,
I'd like to hear.
That's an acceptable alternate spelling.
Right.
I'm with you on that one, Michelle.
I have it on my diploma.
No, but really, that's the way, like in Britain, that's how they spell it a lot.
Yeah. Well, we're not in Britain.
Well, true. color, COLOUR, right? We don't
Right,
do
we
that.
don't have that.
But I see it other places too. There's one of those words.
I probably wouldn't make them change it if they didn't want to, but I would like to chat about what they mean there, and did they, yeah, if it's a listed site. Okay, all right, then we're on to type 3.
And I don't have any questions on that first page. I think it's good. They're adding this stuff.
Mhm.
Any
ADUs.
issues with calling out the specific contractor? Calling out Habitat for Humanity. I mean, is it?
Yeah, I don't know. That's
Yeah.
it's kind of unusual, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a such as. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Right. That's true. It's not limited to. Okay. And then the next page, still type 3, includes the construction for EMU.
I have a question on number 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what that first sentence or first phrase means. Construction or replacement of minor structures accessory to existing facilities up to 3,500 square feet. So are the existing facilities up to 3,500 square feet,
Or
or is it the minor structures?
right.
That's a good question, because I know, like, with the example, right, that we use for construction and location of single new small facilities or structures and alterations of the same, including but not limited to single family residences less than 3,500 square feet. So ideally, you could do a new single family home under this exemption, so long as it's below 3,500 square feet.
And I think they actually have that in a previous
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
That's in 1A.
Yeah. So.
Single
Yeah.
family residences, but here it's accessory stuff.
Mhm.
But it's really important to know what does that phrase modify? Does it modify
Yeah.
the noun that it's after, which
Right.
is how normal English works? Or is it meant to modify the structures?
No,
So if there's a structure that's larger than 3,500 square feet, an existing facility that's larger than 3,500 suite, they can't do it?
I see that would be my issue. I
Yeah.
kind of don't think they need that the additional language, right? Because I mean, you'd still want to be able to exempt appropriate accessory structures, period,
Right. Regardless of the size of the
size of the structure that it's
Yeah, there
accessory.
could be a DHHL office that's 10,000 square feet and they need to stick a storage shed behind it. Does this disqualify it?
Yeah.
But I actually
We could
think
ask them.
they mean they misplaced their modifier. And it should be
for the new minor
the new
structure.
facilities. I think
Yeah.
that's what they really want to say. So let's assume that. Let's question it, but let's assume that and let's move that modifier over there.
Mhm.
And then there's problems with the list, because you've got things like utilities, 3,500 square feet of telephone line.
Mm.
You know, it's 3,500 square feet of signage, telecommunications equipment, aerators. A lot of these things aren't 3,500, measure them in square feet. And it's kind of a meaningless thing.
Well, if
Right.
the structure is 3,500 feet, then these are the
Then they make more sense.
right.
So, let's clarify
Yeah.
what they mean. And if the structure is 3,500 square feet, I really got to say why.
If the
Because
new structure,
that's not the intent of our law,
Hmm.
is to limit accessory structures based on the thing they're next to.
Right.
Mhm.
I don't know, Tom, I don't know if you're following any of this, but you may be doing other work.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to work on the notice, but yeah, what, sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. I think you got to do your work, but yeah, you'd be interested in this one. But anyway, it's
Okay.
um so when we get them in here,
Yeah.
when
We
you
can
get
ask. But let's say, but Ron, if it is the 3,500 square feet is the construction of the new structure, that's the size of the new structure, then all these things underneath it are just the supporting things to that 3,500 square foot addition. Not necessarily that, right?
I don't think that's it.
You don't think that's it?
No. This
Well,
doesn't say construction or placement of minor structures, you know,
Oh, I
that,
see. Oh, I
have
see.
these other things with them
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
I think these are meant to be the structures.
yeah, these are supposed to be the structure, so construction.
Gotcha. Okay, I see what you're saying.
But because even like the 3,500 square feet, right? That's not a hard and fast limit for the size of all structures,
No.
right? I mean, you're talking about a home that size, but things may be bigger or smaller,
Yeah.
even depending on the use and intensity, right?
Yeah. So
Right.
I think basically this is just kind of messed up, and it clearly well, I think it was okay before
Right,
they
without
changed.
the limit on the size.
Yeah. So we just got to find out how they're actually changing it and why.
Mhm.
Okay. Then it goes on to the second page where it's adding again some limits on groundwater and utility tanks and size.
And you know, I was looking at this and going, I actually don't know what a groundwater or utility tank is. I know what a water tank is,
Right.
and utility tank, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, I mean, our answer might be different if it's a petroleum tank
Yeah.
versus if you're holding water and water spills,
Yeah, no big deal.
it's okay if it gets into the ground, but what you're worried about is the quantity and is that going to wash someone's house away, right? I mean, kind of different concern. So, yeah, I agree. I think we should yeah, like groundwater, because when you use the term groundwater, you're talking about water that's pumped from below the ground, right? I mean, that's what you're thinking.
And as
Yeah.
soon as it comes out of the ground and it's something else, you don't call it groundwater anymore.
Right.
You know, that's the source.
Yeah, like are they talking
Okay.
about, well, the next one they actually add talks about water catchment tanks. So
Catchment
that's
tanks, so it's distinguishing it from those.
From a
right, but what
groundwater.
is
yeah. So I think that's worth asking for, what do they mean by this?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really see what the difference is between the tanks.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Yeah, and typically, I mean, spill containment, right, is at least I'm familiar with spill containment being required again when you have hazardous materials, but I don't know that you're required to have spill containment for potable water tanks.
I'm trying to think. Think I should go look at a reservoir and see if it has a little berm around it. Do some of them have that, Michelle?
It's a good question. I was just thinking, you can't direct water onto
Right.
another property, and so anything that might be required to keep the water, if it did overflow or spill, just so that it stayed on the subject.
Hey,
Yeah, I'll have to defer to you guys on that. I've only worked with like fuel containment.
Yeah,
projects.
yeah, I wouldn't have
You
called
are
that.
required
I
to
wouldn't
have a
have called
berm
that
for
spill
it.
containment. It just occurred to me
Yeah.
as we talked
You know,
about stuff that you're not
I have a
allowed.
request to the chair that we postpone discussion of this up to, we've gotten a long ways, but
Yep.
there's a whole
We have a
lot more to
ways to
go. We're not going
Yes.
to make it today.
Mhm.
And I really wanted to get to agenda
Yes.
item 4.
Yes.
And I know you have the minutes too.
Yep. Yep. Okay, that sounds good. We can move on and table this discussion until, do I need a motion to do that, or we can just move through?
Yeah, just take it as.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Move to
Right.
postpone further discussion of DHHL lists until the next committee meeting.
Second,
Thank you.
All those
all in
in favor?
favor, aye.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Next item on the agenda was the review and approval of the past meeting minutes. So those were from November, December, January. Did anyone have any comments on those?
I'll move to approve, or, oh yeah, actually, wait. I do have just one correction on December.
Okay.
It's on page 3 under number 5, the CWRM item. It's the second paragraph. I think there's a reference that says, I said that on Kauai, it's the last, second to last sentence in the second paragraph under the CWRM heading. Says Onana said on Kauai, community members are concerned about disclosure of how many straws in the drink. I believe that was actually Maka'ala who said that.
Oh, okay.
So that would be my only amendment to December.
That's-
And
Onana said, okay, I got it.
Okay, second, to approve with that correction.
yes,
Vote, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Favor.
approve.
November, there's just this typo. It's on page 2, I guess. And you just say OCH instead of OHCD.
Oh, okay.
I almost hesitate to bring it up, but
OH, got it.
Good eye. I missed that.
so I move to
We
approve
already
with that.
approved it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
What?
thought we approved all 3, but yes.
Oh, we're supposed to do them one at a time, I think, but
Oh, okay. Move to
Um,
approve. Yeah, go ahead. Move to approve November.
yeah, move to approve November with that correction.
Second.
Second, all in
All in
favor?
favor?
Okay, aye.
And
I didn't have any comments on January.
Same. Move to approve January 2024 meeting minutes.
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the final.
yeah, and this is one that I on 4.
Yep.
On 4. This one I want to involve Tom in.
Okay. Tom, you got to pay attention now.
So you got the agenda for our meeting, Tom?
Yes,
Okay, this is item 4 on the exemption committee.
okay.
Okay, and I downloaded the exemption template form from the I do this because I actually ran into an issue doing something. This is while you were gone.
See what
And
happens.
and I was trying to publish a notice. And I think I was talking with Kim, probably Kim.
Probably.
And she was saying that I had to have, sorry, I'm just getting it up. I had to have the agency fill out this form and sign it. And otherwise she couldn't publish the description of the thing. She could take our spreadsheet, but not publish the blurb, right?
This is
And
for
I
the
said-
actual exemption notice, not the monthly list.
Yeah, for a description where it says exemption, I forget what it says, exemption notice summaries or something like that.
Probably,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah, and I guess my main issue is that, I mean, this form is okay. I have no problem with it per se, but I think there's this impression that you can't really do an exemption notice. It's not official unless you do this form. And I just want to, I think we need to make it clear, this is just one example of
Yes,
a way
yes.
to do a thing.
Right, certainly that's the guidance that I give, especially to agencies, and mostly I interact with agencies
Yeah,
for getting the notice. We offer the template to facilitate them, their processes, but we don't require it has to be exactly that form.
yeah, and I think
Okay.
I think it's a good form. I just want to make it clear that that's what it is. It's an example. It's a template. Agencies may choose to do the environmental notice any way they want, as long as it conforms with the rules. And because I'd done an environmental notice and I provided it to her, but she said, well, that's not good enough because it's not on this form. And I knew she was not right. But I was just like, I don't want to bust her chops on it. And I said, well, if that's what it takes, I'll fill it out. But I had a hard time getting Susan's signature because she's busy as hell. And I don't know if I can get it. I don't know if I can get it in time. It was the day before, but she said, oh no, we got one more day. So, and then the next day I was trying to track down Susan, and Kim, I guess it was, called me back and said, oh, never mind. It's okay. Now, I don't know if she talked to you or who, but she decided, no, it's all right. We can use what you sent. You have a signature on your exemption notice thing, but we don't have to take care of this right now. But I just want to make this somehow clear. In the old days, you weren't going to get your EA published unless you filled out a very specific form, right? I mean, you didn't fill out no form, no publish, no ticky, no washy, right? And
Yeah,
that's like this, I think people kind of have that impression. So I
Right.
actually have people, I write in exemption notices for agencies when they ask me to, and then they'll say, well, wait, it's not on the right form. It's not on the right form. I
the
managed
main
to
thing
convince them.
is that, well, certainly an exemption notice is an agency determination.
Right.
And so as long as it comes to us with some sort of bona fides that it was authorized, I mean, typically we would say on letterhead and signed by someone
Right.
with authority,
Right.
then it's good. If they use the form, it's very easy to show that's it. If it's not our form, then we look at it to see if it still, provides the information that makes the correct assertions.
Yeah,
we can have that internal discussion.
You've got an area for comments and summary of impact analysis, which I assume, kind of goes right into the form, right into
There's
the
a place
notice.
for some narrative. You can add some narrative on the exemption notice template. There's some check boxes and some questions that are more open-ended, and you would write a narrative.
Right. And I think that, I do that too on my notices, but it's often quite a bit longer than what fits in the notice. So if you just use this form and you do it like I do it, a little verbose, let's say sometimes, then you're going to be stuck with doing the summary.
Right, and we don't want that, and obviously
Right.
want it to be provided to us.
So you might want to put a word limit on the summary or something, but I hesitate to do a word limit on the exemption notice because sometimes an exemption notice may be a little more complicated. And I've used up to 2 or 3 pages here on, those are borderline exemptions where we really had to think about, is it exempt or not, and we have to justify it. There's a historic site, there's an endangered species, but they're not going to be impacted in any way. And we got concurrence and all that kind of thing. So I like to document that in the notice in this analysis. So anyway, are you guys following me?
I am.
I know
Yeah.
Tom knows what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think this just needs to, the process and the form needs to be worked on a little bit, tweaked. That's all.
Yeah, right. And the exemption, I've been getting more and more questions, or it's coming up with agency people, the whole exemption thing. So it's time to certainly for some more training and maybe just to rethink a improved way of doing it. I'm finding that, normally I had been assuming that agencies were pretty much driving the bus on exemptions. And I got a call from one county who has not been providing any monthly lists for a while, maybe ever. And they didn't really understand they were supposed to, which, okay, there's a learning opportunity. But also I realized they were completely kind of offsourcing it to the applicant to get the exemption template from me, fill it out and give it to them. And they just review it and say, okay, that's good, we'll sign it. which is not what I understood. I don't think most agencies are doing that. So we had a discussion on just, is that the best way for them? They look at the whole thing as an extra. 343 is like an extra. And so there's an opportunity for more discussion, maybe to tease these out some details.
Well, this is interesting because our PIG that we're reporting on today actually deals with this a little bit. And we really think we've got to educate key members of the county about the exemption process. And just interestingly enough, yesterday, the Department of Water Supply asked me if I'd come in and help them understand the process better. So on Thursday, we're having a meeting to help them go over it because the county Office of Housing and Community Development was completely in the dark how to do this. Completely.
Yeah.
And they had it really bass backwards.
Tom, when we did the rules, and I recall, I think you did most of the outreach to the agencies, but I went to the one in Quanah with Scott, and I think what happened to that nice flyer that we worked on? I mean, we have an exemption guidance document. Do you still have a copy of that? And maybe it's time for us to, at the next meeting, look at that guidance document and even provide it to Ron for his meeting on Thursday.
I'll have to dig it up. I was actually not involved in really much of anything with that rules making procedure from back then. So I'll look through the files. Scott certainly left a lot. It's probably there somewhere. Hopefully I'll find it and get it.
I'll try to find it too, but it was a nice Word document. It would have been prepared sometime in 2019. Mary Alice.
No.
It was I think it was like a 2-pager front and back.
Scott did it. I remember it well, and I probably have it too somewhere.
Okay. But Ron, that might be helpful for your talk on Thursday because I know. So Scott and we did a session with Hawaii County folks in Quanah at the community or the main building where like the LPC hearings and everything are, right. We did a session. We probably had maybe 10 or so folks who showed up, including some corp councils, and we really went through that training on, hey, this is the new exemption process. I think Scott, and sorry, Tom, I must have misspoke. I thought you had attended with him for some of these on different islands, but maybe not. I know Scott had done trainings with other, city and county, and I thought he had gone at least to Maui and Kauai as well. Of course, can't force anybody to go. They're voluntary if people from state and county agencies wanted to come, right? But yeah, maybe that's something we can look at in our next meeting and just do a refresher and include, this is actually the first time I'm seeing this exemption notice form because I typically work with applicants, right? So I'm not the one prepping the actual exemption notice, and more so, of course, Ron and Michelle would have more familiarity with that as the consultants preparing it. But yeah,
unless your applicants are on Kauai, then maybe as a consultant you would be doing it.
Well, this segues right into the PIG report, which basically says we got to get with the agencies in person and talk to them about everything to do with exemptions.
Right.
This is one thing we want to do. So it'd be nice if we could get our exemption form template in the process written down in such a way that we're quite sure of it.
Yeah.
That was 5 years ago, and we've probably done some, thought about it a little bit since then.
And this also feeds into the INO forum they want to have sometime this spring as well.
Yeah.
So using that as an education, opportunity, all these things tied together.
Absolutely.
It's just so hot right now. So hot.
Yeah.
It
I'll try to find that nice guidance document that Scott did.
Me too.
Are you able to look for it as well? Because gosh, we just had so much
stuff.
There was a lot of material.
Right.
There's a lot of material. I gotta try to see where we saved it. But yeah, Ron, that might actually just be helpful for you when you do.
Yeah, right. A little cheat sheet to give them. I can do it in my sleep. I can say everything that needs to be done, but it'd be nice if they don't have to just write it all down, or I don't have to write it down again too.
Right. And I'm trying to see if it actually was uploaded to our guidance documents or not.
There is a webpage on our website for the rules revision where Scott dumped a whole lot of documents. After
Oh,
this, I can go and look through that.
okay, that'd be
Well, I
great.
am trying to get the notice ready.
Yeah, after.
No worries, Tom. We can do that. We can do that.
Hey,
Right.
where on the new website, sorry, just while I have you before we adjourn, are all the guidance documents?
I have it. I have it.
There's a
You-
guidance.
I got
and
it.
forms, tab, or kind of if you go down about halfway,
Oh, there we go.
guidance and forms. That section can stand to be enhanced, I think.
Yeah, it's on there. 2019 exemptions guide.
In fact, it's coming your way right now.
Okay,
So-
well.
Thank you. All right, well, I know we've only got a couple of minutes before full council meeting. So you want me to carry this over till next month so we can continue this conversation? Okay.
Yeah,
I'll have it.
I think so.
Okay, so we'll carry over DHHL and this exemption process.
Mhm.
Okay, I guess we need motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, great. All in favor?
See you in a second.
All right, thanks.
In a moment.
Bye.
12:56. Thank you.
Bye.